Good morning again. I'm going to do today's Harry Potter reading. And the last thing we read, there was some craziness. Harry Potter was in a cabin on an island with his uncle and their family. And suddenly this big giant, basically a big guy named Hagrid came in and started talking to Harry about how he's a wizard. Let's see what happens next. A scandal. Harry Potter not knowing his own story when every kid in our world knows his name. But why? What happened? Harry asked urgently. The anger faded from Hagrid's face. He looked anxious. Never expected this, he said in a low, worried voice. I had no idea when Dumbledore told me there might be trouble getting hold of you, how much you didn't know. Harry, I don't know if I'm the right person to tell you, but someone's gotta. You can't go off to Hogwarts not knowing. He threw a dirty look at the Dursleys. Well, it's best you know as much as I can tell you. Mind, I can't tell you everything. It's a great mystery, parts of it. He sat down, stared into the fire for a few seconds, and then he said, It begins, I suppose, with a person called, but it's incredible, you know. You don't know his name. Everyone in our world knows. Who? Well, I don't like saying the name if I can help it. No one does. Why not? Gulping gargoyles, Harry. People are still scared. Blimey, this is difficult. See, there was a wizard who went bad. As bad as you could go. Worse. Worse than worse. His name was... Hagrid gulped, but no words came out. Can you write it down? Harry suggested. Nah, I can't spell it. All right. Voldemort. Hagrid shuddered. Remember, shuddered means he kind of shivers a little bit. Don't make me say his name again. Anyway, this wizard, about 20 years ago now, started looking for followers. He got them, too. Some were afraid. Some just wanted power. Because he was getting himself power, all right. Dark days, Harry. Didn't know who to trust. Didn't get friendly with strange wizards or witches. Terrible things happen. He was taken over. Of course, some stood up to him, and he killed them. Horribly. One of the only safe places left was Hogwarts. I reckon Dumbledore's the only one you know who was afraid of. Didn't dare try taking the school. Not just then, anyway. Now, your mom and dad were as good as a witch and wizards as I ever knew. Head boy and girl at Hogwarts in their day. Suppose the mystery is why you know who never tried to get 'em on their side before. Probably knew they were too close to Dumbledore to do anything with the dark side. Maybe. He thought he could persuade him. Maybe he just wanted him out of the way. All anyone knows is he turned up in the village where y'all was living on Halloween 10 years ago. You was just a year old. He came to your house and Hagrid pulled out a very dirty spotted handkerchief and he blew his nose. It sounded like a foghorn. Sorry, he said, but it's sad. I knew your mom and dad and they were nicer people than you ever find. Anyway, you know who killed him. And then, this is a real mystery of the thing. He tried to kill you, too. He wanted to make a clean job of it, I suppose. Or maybe he just liked killing by then. But he couldn't do it. He never wondered how you got that... You ever wondered how you got that mark on your forehead? That's no ordinary cut. That's what you get when a powerful evil curse touches you. Took care of your mom and dad in your house, even. But it didn't work on you, and that's why you're famous, Harry. No one ever lived after he decided to kill him. No one except you. And he killed some of the best wizards and witches of the age. The McKinnons, the Bones, the Pruitts, and you was only a baby, and yet you lived. Something very painful was going on in Harry's mind. As Hagrid's story came to close, he saw a blinding flash of green light more clearly than he ever remembered it. And he remembered something else for the first time in his life. A high, cold, cruel laughter. Hagrid was looking at him sadly. I took you from the ruined house myself on Dumbledore's orders. I brought you to this lot. Load of old tosh, said Uncle Vernon. Harry jumped. He'd almost forgotten that the Dursleys were there. Uncle Vernon certainly seemed to have got his courage back. He was glaring at Hagrid, and his fists were clenched. Now you listen here, boy. I accept that there's strange about you. Probably nothing a good beating wouldn't have cured. But for all this about your parents, well, they were weirdos, no denying it. They asked for what they got, getting all mixed up with these wizarding types, just what I expected. Always knew they'd come to a sticky end. But at that moment, Hagrid leapt from the sofa and he drew a battered pink umbrella from inside his coat. Pointing this at Uncle Vernon like a sword, he said, "I'm warning you, Dursley! I'm warning you! One more word!" In danger of being speared at the end of an umbrella, Uncle Vernon's courage failed again. He flattened himself against the wall and he went silent. "That's better," said Hagrid, breathing heavily and sitting back down on the sofa, which this time sagged right down to the floor. Harry, meanwhile, still had 100 questions. "But what happened to Sorry, I mean, you know who." "Same good question, Harry. Disappeared. Vanished. Some say he tried to kill you. Same night he tried to kill you. Makes you even more famous. That's the biggest mystery, you see. He was getting more and more powerful. Why'd he go?" "Some say he died. Codswallop, in my opinion. Dunno if they had enough human left in him to die. Some say he's still out there biding his time, but I don't believe it. People who was on his side came to ours. Some of them came out of trances. Don't reckon they could have done if he was coming back. Most of us reckon he's still out there somewhere, but he lost his powers. Too weak to carry on. 'Cause something about you finished him off, Harry. There was something going on that night he hadn't counted on. I don't know what it was. No one does. But something about you stumped him, all right." Hagrid looked at Harry with warmth and respect in his eyes, but Harry, instead of feeling pleased and proud, felt sure that there was a horrible mistake. A wizard? Him? How could he possibly be? He'd spent his life being clouted means beat up, by Dudley, and bullied by Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon. If he really was a wizard, why hadn't they been turned into warty toads every time they tried to lock him in his cupboard? If he'd once defeated the greatest sorcerer in the world, how come Dudley had always been able to kick him around like a football? "Hagrid," Harry said quietly, "I think you must have a mistake. I don't think I can be a wizard." To his surprise, Hagrid chuckled. "Not a wizard, eh? Never made things happen when you were scared or angry?" Harry looked into the fire. Now that he came to think about it, every odd thing that had ever made his aunt and uncle furious with him had happened when Harry had been upset or angry, chased by Dudley's gang. He had somehow found himself out of their reach, dreaded going to school with the ridiculous haircut. He'd managed to make it grow back. And the very last time Dudley had hit him, hadn't he got his revenge without even realizing he was doing? Hadn't he set a boa constrictor on him at the zoo? Harry looked back at Hagrid, smiling, and saw that Hagrid was positively beaming at him. Beaming means it's a big giant smile. He's beaming. "See," said Hagrid, "Harry Potter not a wizard. You wait, you'll be a right famous one at that, at Hogwarts." But Uncle Vernon wasn't going to give in without a fight. "Haven't I told you he's not going?" he hissed. "Going to Stonewall High, and he'll be grateful for it. I've read those letters, and he needs all sort of rubbish, spell books and wands, and..." "If he wants to go, great muggle like you won't stop him," growled Hagrid. "Stop Lily and James Potter's son going to Hogwarts? You're mad. His name has been down in the books since he was born. He's off to the finest school of witchcraft and wizardry in the world. 7 years there and he won't even know himself. He'll be with youngsters of his own sort for a change. And he'll understand the greatest headmaster Hogwarts ever had, Albus Dumbledore." "I'm not paying for some crackpot old fool to teach him magic tricks," yelled Uncle Vernon. But he had finally gone too far. Hagrid seized his umbrella and whirled it over his head. "Never!" he thundered. "Insult! Albus Dumbledore in front of me!" He brought the umbrella swishing down through the air to point at Dudley. There was a flash of purple light, a sound like a firecracker, a sharp squeal, and the next second Dudley was dancing on the spot with his hands clasped over his fat bottom, howling in pain. When he turned his back on them, Harry saw a curly pig's tail poking through the hole in his trousers. Uncle Vernon roared. Pulling Aunt Petunia and Dudley into the other room, he cast one last terrified look at Hagrid and slammed the door shut behind them. Hagrid looked at his umbrella and stroked his beard. "Shouldn't have lost my temper," he said ruefully, "but it didn't work anyway. Meant to turn him into a pig, but I suppose he was so much like a pig anyway there wasn't much left to do." He cast a sideways look at Harry under his eyebrows. "Be grateful you didn't mention that to anyone at Hart. I would be grateful if you didn't mention that to anyone at Hogwarts," he said. I'm not supposed to do magic, strictly speaking. I was allowed to do a bit to follow you and to get your letters to you and stuff. One of the reasons I was so keen to take on the job." "Why weren't you supposed to do magic?" asked Harry. "Well, I was at Hogwarts myself, but I got expelled, to tell the truth, in my 3rd year. They snapped me wand in half and everything, but Dumbledore let me stay on as a gamekeeper. Great man, Dumbledore. Why were you expelled? It's getting late, and we got lots to do tomorrow. Gotta get up to town, get all your books and all that. He took off his thick black coat and threw it to Harry. You can kip under that. Don't mind if it wiggles a bit. I think I still got a couple of dormice in one of the pockets. Chapter 5, Diagon Alley. Harry woke the next morning. Although he could tell it was daylight, he kept his eyes shut. It was a dream, he told himself. I dreamed a giant called Hagrid came to tell me I was going to a school for wizards. When I opened my eyes, I'll be at home in my cupboard. There was suddenly a large tapping noise. And there's Aunt Petunia knocking on the door, he thought, his heart sinking, but he still didn't open his eyes. It had been such a good dream. Tap, tap, tap. All right, Harry said, I'm getting up. He sat up, and Hagrid's heavy coat fell off of him. The hut was full of sunlight. The storm was over. Hagrid was asleep on the sofa, and there was an owl wrapping its claw on the window, a newspaper held in its beak. Harry scrambled to his feet, so happy he felt as though a large balloon was swelling inside of him. He went straight to the window and jerked it open. The owl swooped in and dropped the newspaper on top of Hagrid, who didn't wake up. The owl then fluttered onto the floor and began to attack Hagrid's coat. Don't do that. Hagrid tried to wave the owl out of the way, Harry tried to wave the owl out of his way, but it snapped its beak at him. Hagrid, Harry said lowly, there's an owl. Pay him, Hagrid grunted into the sofa. What? He wants paying for delivering the paper. Look in the pockets. Hagrid's coat seemed to be made of nothing but pockets, bunches of keys, slug pellets, balls of string, peppermint humbugs, tea bags. Finally, Harry pulled out a handful of strange-looking coins. Give him 5 newts, said Hagrid sleepily. Newts? The little bronze one. Harry counted out 5 little bronze coins, and the owl held out his leg so Harry could pet it into a small leather pouch tied to it, and then he flew out the open window. Hagrid yawned loudly, sat up, and stretched. Best be off, Harry. Lots to do today. Gotta get up to London and buy all your stuff for school. Harry was turning over the wizard coins and looking at them. He just thought of something that made him feel as though the happy balloon inside him got a puncture. Hagrid? Said Hagrid, who was pulling on his huge boots. I haven't got any money. And you heard Uncle Vernon last night. He won't pay for me to go and learn magic. Don't worry about that, said Hagrid, standing up and scratching his head. Do you think your parents didn't leave you anything? But their house was destroyed. They didn't keep their gold in their house, boy. Nah, the first stop for us is Gringotts Wizard's Bank. Have a sausage. They're not bad cold. And I wouldn't say no to a bit of your birthday cake either. Wizards have banks? Just the one, Gringotts, run by goblins. Harry dropped the bit of sausage he was holding. Goblins? Yeah, so you'd be mad to try and rob 'em. I'll tell you that. Never mess with the goblins, Harry. Gringotts is the safest place in the world for anything you want to keep safe, except maybe Hogwarts. As a matter of fact, I gotta visit Gringotts anyway, for Dumbledore. Hogwarts business. Hagrid drew himself up proudly. He usually gets me to do important stuff for him. Fetching, you know, like getting things from Gringotts. He knows he can trust me, you see. Got everything, then? Come on. Harry followed Hagrid out onto the rock. The sky was quite clear now, and the sea gleamed in the sunlight. The boat Uncle Vernon had hired was still there, with a lot of water in the bottom after the storm. How'd you get here? Harry asked, looking around for another boat. Flew, said Hagrid. Flew? Yeah, but we'll go back in this. Not supposed to use magic now that I've got you. They settled down in the boat, Harry still staring at Hagrid, trying to imagine him flying. Seems a shame to row, though. He said, if I was to speed things up, you wouldn't mention it at Hogwarts? Of course not, said Harry, eager to see more magic. Hagrid pulled out the pink umbrella again, tapped it twice on the side of the boat, and then sped off toward land. Why would you be mad to try and rob Gringotts? Harry asked. Spells, enchantments, said Hagrid. They say there's dragons guarding the high-security vaults, and you gotta find your way. Gringotts is hundreds of miles under London, see, deep under the underground. You'd die of hunger trying to get out, even if you managed to get your hands on some summit. Harry sat and thought about this for a while Hagrid read his newspaper, The Daily Prophet. Harry had learned from Uncle Vernon that people liked to be left alone while they did this, but it was very difficult. He'd never had so many questions in his life. Ministry and magic messing things up as usual, Hagrid muttered, turning the page. There's a Ministry of Magic? Harry asked before he could stop himself. Of course, said Hagrid. They wanted Dumbledore for minister, of course, but he'd never leave Hogwarts. So old Cornelius Fudge got the job. Bungler, if there ever was one. So he pelts Dumbledore with owls every morning, asking for advice. But what does a Ministry of Magic do? Well, their main job is to keep it from the muggles that there's still witches and wizards up in the country. Why? Why, blimey, Harry? Everyone would want to be having magic solutions to their problems. No, we're best left alone. And that is where we're going to stop for today. I will see you guys tomorrow for some more Harry Potter reading.